Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our preview video for the Brazilian Grand Prix. A bit of a different location this week. I'm on the move. It's a bit of a makeshift setup, but we're trying our best. We got a load of old wires and stuff over there and old DVDs, and the gnome's still here, so that's good. We always stay consistent with the gnome. But it is time for the Brazilian Grand Prix, and of course it is a sprint race weekend this weekend, which means we're doing the preview here on a Thursday. We'll have our normal coverage throughout the week, of course. Sprint qualifying reaction tomorrow, sprint and qualifying on Sunday, sprint qualifying on Saturday, main race on Sunday, driver ratings on the Monday. So, in today's video, we're not going to have a special helmet street or upgrade corner because we don't really know what's going on there. The data hasn't come out yet, but we have got a lot of news to get through and, of course, our predictions. So, all that to come. Make sure you subscribe and drop a like, of course. Those are the rules. And a huge shout out to our members, Dakota, The Joyous James, Robin Myers, and Cinnamon Strudel. With that all said, let's get into the bloody news. Now, of course, the big talking point from going into this weekend, is what happened last weekend at the Mexican Grand Prix, and of course the incident between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, which saw Max Verstappen get two separate 10-second penalties, which equivalated to 20 seconds worth of penalties. So, of course, at the time I said that I agreed with both penalties, and that hasn't changed whatsoever, but people have looked into this a little bit more and into the stewards. Now, before I get into this story, I'd like to say still, I agree that the penalties were penalties and deserved to be penalties. I mean, you could maybe argue, is it a 5 or a 10, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to disagree with what they gave out. That being said, F1 love to put themselves into positions where if something controversial was to happen, they'd have no leg to stand on. Because we discussed last week how Johnny Herbert was one of the stewards who, during his time at Sky Sports, made it incredibly clear that he wasn't a huge Max Verstappen fan. But, that's neither here nor there, really, because realistically, every steward has drivers they like and don't like. It's just maybe that's not as publicly available as Johnny Herbert's was when he was on Sky Sports. But a different steward was there by the name of Tim Mayer, who is the son of Teddy Mayer, who is a co-founder of McLaren. Now, if that's not a conflict of interest, I'm not really sure what was. Then I was reminded that in 2021, a steward was removed from the stewarding board because he owned a Honda dealership, and it could be seen that he would be biased towards Red Bull because they were powered by Honda at the time. So, how the hell is the son of one of the co-founders of McLaren allowed to be a steward in a year where McLaren are going for both world titles? Again, I feel the penalties that were given out were fair, but if they had been controversial, how can you defend that position right there? Because that's pretty indefensible for me. It's just like, why are you putting yourself in this position? There must be loads of people who could possibly be stewards. Why do you have to pick him of all the people? It makes no sense to me. But there you go. I think Johnny Herbert is a steward again this weekend. Let's see how this weekend goes. But looking forward to 2025, we mentioned this a few weeks ago about the engine cost cap breaches for both Alpine and Honda. Now, the punishment has come out for this. They have both been fined a combined $1 million. So I don't actually know if that's $500,000 each or if it's a different ratio or whatever it is, but the penalty has been given out there. Of course, Alpine aren't using that engine, so the cost of that just goes up and up and up for the Alpine team. Developing an engine, having to employ people, now dealing with a fine. So going to move across to Mercedes at this point looks even more expensive than it ever did. Looking forward to this weekend, though, and of course we have to talk about Sergio Perez. Had one of his worst race weekends possibly ever last weekend at his home Grand Prix. And now we're here in Brazil, and the rumour mill has started up again that this is Sergio Perez's last race weekend. Now, I am firmly in the camp that say that it is his time to go. I don't think he necessarily has to leave F1, but I think it's definitely time for him to leave Red Bull. Christian Horner has commented on this, saying, inevitably, when you're not delivering, the spotlight is firmly on you. As a team, we need both cars scoring points, and that's the nature of Formula One. We're working with him as hard as we can to try and find him support. I think we've done everything that we can to support Checo. We'll continue to do so in Brazil next weekend. But there comes a point in time when you can only do so much. And that last line for me there is really the kicker. That's the one that for me has sealed it. I mean, Horner has been one of the biggest Sergio Perez defenders that there is. I think, if we hear about these power dynamics within the team, Helmut Marko is very anti-Checo, and it seems like Horner is on the pro Sergio Perez side. But even now it sounds like maybe Horner is against him. With this few races to go in the season, I don't know if they will drop him at this point or just carry on. Because if they do drop him, who do they bring in? Is it Liam Lawson? Do you give, Liam Lawson's had, 2 races? Will be 3 races this weekend in the RB car. And you go, right, okay, those 3 races were good. Time for you to come up to the big leagues. Is that how we're going to work it? Or do you give Checo until the end of the year, then move things around next year? Which could also be another way to go, because Christian Horner has also confirmed that Red Bull have spoken with the management of Franco Colapinto. Now, Colapinto, of course, came in to replace Logan Sargent, has been incredibly impressive, which is really quite surprising, because for me, his junior career was never incredibly impressive. He's had race wins, of course, and podiums, but when you look at his results, they are not the results of a driver you expect to go into Formula One. Never mind go into Formula One and be really good. But he has done. For me, he's outshone Albon in their drives together as teammates. And now, of course, he's got the eyes of the paddock on him. He's heavily rumoured to be in the Sauber seat, and now here heavily rumoured to be in one of the Red Bull cars, probably the second Racing Bull alongside Yuki Tsunoda, which could then lead to Lawson being promoted up to the Red Bull, Checo leaving Formula One. So the cogs continue to turn in the Red Bull team, but the cogs are not turning in Max Verstappen's Red Bull, because he is set to replace the internal combustion engine for the Brazilian Grand Prix. This hasn't been confirmed as of yet, but this is basically all but confirmed. He will take a 5-place grid penalty for the main race on Sunday this weekend for this new internal combustion engine. Of course, we saw in Mexico the issues he was having with the engine on the car. They had to revert back to an old one. It seems like he's getting a brand new engine in the back of the car for these last 4 race weekends now, which of course will benefit him, but of course he now has to take a penalty as well alongside that. Max Verstappen, though, he's actually given his thoughts on the Sauber second seat, which is interesting, because of course we always have to talk about the Sauber second seat, but thankfully Max Verstappen agrees with me, because he has said Sauber should have already signed Gabriel Bortoleto for 2025. Gabriel Bortoleto, of course, currently leading the Formula 2 Championship, doing amazingly. Won F3 in his rookie year. He's in his rookie year of F2 right now. I think he's only got 1 race weekend left to go in Abu Dhabi where he can clinch that title. It'll be him or Hadjar. He has been linked with the Sauber seat. His agent is Fernando Alonso, and now he's got Max Verstappen bigging him up as well. So hopefully Bortoleto can get something good from this. And before we go on here, I'd like to talk about Max Verstappen just a little bit more, because as we saw last weekend, Ferrari have now jumped Red Bull to be second in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull down to third. So I thought I'd look it up as to when was the last time a driver's champion came from a team that didn't finish first or second in the Constructors' Championship. And I think what it was 1984, with someone who's quite familiar to Max Verstappen. It's his father-in-law, Nelson Piquet. I'm just going to check this, double check I got the year right now. So F1 1984. There we go. There it is. Results and standings. So no, it wasn't 84. Bloody hell, that was a Niki Lauda year. What was I thinking of? It was 83. It must have been 83. Yes, there we go. So We'll do that again because I say it wrong. So the last time a Drivers' World Champion came from a team that didn't finish first or second in the Constructors' Championship was 1983 with Nelson Piquet in the Brabham, with Brabham finishing third in the Constructors' Championship behind, I believe it was Ferrari and Renault. Now, I looked into it a little bit more. It's only ever happened twice. There's only been 2 times in all of F1 history that the Drivers' World Champion has come from a team that didn't finish first or second. The other time was 1982 with Keke Rosberg in the Williams, where Williams finished 4th in the Constructors' Championship. So if Max can win the title this year, and Red Bull continue to be 3rd, or who even knows, they could drop to 4th if Mercedes pull their finger out, that will be only the 3rd time it has happened in Formula 1 history, and the first time since 1983, which is unbelievable. Looking forward to this weekend, though, it looks to be a rather chaotic one. The weather report is not looking good. Rain is predicted for both the sprint and the main race, as well as qualifying for the main race on Saturday. So it's not looking great for the race. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. Of course, when it rains, in my opinion, it's advantage Max Verstappen. So we'll see how that one plays out from there. Of course, he will have that 5-place grid penalty on the Sunday. And now a bit of news here that's not F1 related, but nonetheless I think is incredibly interesting. It's surrounding the British touring cars, because they will introduce 100% sustainable fuel from 2025, and they will ditch the hybrid engines, which is something that many people have been calling for within F1. I think Karun Chandok has been very vocal about this as well. Ditch the hybrid engines, bring in sustainable fuels, and bring back V10s. The touring cars are giving this a go. It'll be the first championship in the UK to fully adopt sustainable fossil-free fuel for all the cars. So this is something to keep an eye on that I think could eventually come over and affect Formula 1. We'll have to wait and see how that one plays out, but it's a very exciting time because I hate the sound of the V6 hybrids and I love the sound of the V10s. It'll be nice to have that back. As I said, no special helmet streak this week or no upgrade corner because we don't know what's going on right now because it's Thursday. But we have got a couple of predictions for you as always, and the predictions are never wrong. That's the rules. They're never, ever wrong. My first prediction is another Ferrari win. I feel confident about this. I feel good. Ferrari have had tremendous pace recently. You know, I think the McLaren pace was close, especially Lando Norris. Well, only Lando Norris in Mexico. But yeah, the Ferraris have been incredible recently. So I would not be surprised if it was another pole and victory for them. I'm not sure who, but I think it'll go that way. And my other prediction is I think Lando Norris will outscore Max Verstappen this weekend by more than 10 points. Max has that 5-place grid penalty. The McLaren is far quicker than the Red Bull is at the minute, and Lando Norris is running out of time. Now, I've always said that I don't really feel a championship battle is on the cards at the minute because Max has too much of a lead and he's too good. But Lando Norris has been given a gift here. With Max being in a much slower car and now having this grid penalty, he has to capitalise on this one. And it's a sprint race weekend. So I think he needs, if he wants to become champion this year, this is his last chance, I feel. He has to get a big points haul this weekend to swing it back round in his favour. We'll have to wait and see. I think the Ferrari could throw a wrench into that just because they are so good at the minute. But yeah, it should be a very, very interesting one. As I said, we will be here all weekend. Back tomorrow for sprint qualifying reactions, then Saturday for the race and main qualifying, Sunday for the main race, and then Monday for all things driver ratings. All that to come and more on the channel, so make sure you subscribe. Until next time, I'll see you later. Have a good one. Goodbye.